Natural Health Podcast, where we bring awareness of sustainable health in a business hustle space. Natural Health Podcast is perfect for the high-performing, business-minded individuals who want to work with their biochemistry to achieve optimal health and success. It's Friday, which means it's time for friends sharing facts about health, business, and overall success. In today's episode, we talk to Ann Marie Balkanski. She graduated from medical school in 2012, became an executive leader, and now a practicing certified clinical hypnotherapist. She, however, did not do this without her own challenges and self-struggles as a prior foster child and high school dropout. Ann Marie had to learn to heal within clear limiting beliefs and essentially step outside of her own way to create her own current reality of success. The most profound thing that has helped her create the change was hypnosis. And she wants to educate and share it with the world how this can help people achieve success no matter what their past looks like. Ann Marie helps her clients achieve success in any division of their lives, either that be career, relationships, or simply deepening their understanding of themselves, discovering who you are and become awakened to your purpose in life. Some things that Ann Marie absolutely loves doing is loves dry camping and sustainable living. An interesting fact about her is she has lived in a 19-foot travel trailer RV for a whole year. She loves animals and has a dog who wears a prosthetic because she's missing her paw. Welcome to the Natural Health Podcast, Ann Marie.
Hi, Mihaela. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
You're most welcome. So tell me, when did you live in this RV and what was it like? I mean, everyone here in Australia is buying camper vans. They're buying vans. They're converting buses. Everyone's doing it, but you've already done it. What was life like?
I actually did it before the whole COVID rush of the whole camping. I think it's exploded over the last couple of years. Back in 2008, went through a pivotal change in my life of just like, actually, it was right before I opened my practice. And I was just like, all right, let's go on this self-discovery. Like, who am I? And what better way to do it than just be fully with yourself in like complete solitude. So I literally went into the mountains of like Colorado and just like camped out with nothing but nature, no electricity. I did have some solar panels on top of my trailer and I just fully lived off grid for a short period of time. So that was pretty awesome. And it was great experience.
Your friends and family must have been like, where is Ann Marie?
Yeah. The first question was, did you get anything to protect yourself, like a gun? I was like, no. It's like,
believe in the universe. It will protect me.
Exactly. I was like, and once you get into the whole world, like people that are doing it, that are all into like this lifestyle are all just like hippies. I mean, come on, everybody's like kumbaya, love each other. There are some places that were kind of sketchy, but otherwise you meet some really great people.
Yeah, wow, what an experience. That's absolutely extraordinary. So you would recommend it for others if they want to, get closer to themselves, understand themselves?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're doing it with a partner, make sure you have a big enough space. But when you're by yourself, I mean, it was just me and my pup. So it was really nice, to go hiking and just be with yourself.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. I mean, I was going to say, if you're going with your partner, you can always kick him out in a tent or something. So make sure you always have a tent.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. Beautiful. Well, Ann Marie, look, tell us a little bit about yourself. I want to know some key turning points. I bet you one of them was living in a camper van. But what are some other key turning points that happened in your life to where you are today? Because there's a lot that's happened. I mean, just reading in your bio, foster child, being a doctor. So what's been happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'll kind of start chronologically because, I mean, the first turning point was when I actually realized I could become a doctor. Like I came from this upbringing where I had a lot of beliefs about myself that I was not capable or able to do anything on my own. I looked at my past and I was like, no. You come from a broken family, nobody from your family even graduated college. How could you even think to do that? And one pivotal moment was when I got in a car accident, but it wasn't anything extreme or anything. And I met the first person that was a chiropractor, osteopath, and they I found out that they were a high school dropout and that they didn't even graduate high school, and that they came from they just opened up to me. And, I think I was at this point of applying to college and going to school. And, I guess my negative self-talk came out while I was talking to him about like my woe is me. And he just was giving me encouragement by telling him about himself. And that was very motivating, because you hear about things and, like on TV or books, but like meeting someone in real life, I was like, wow, like I can actually do this. So that was a pivotal moment. I started jumping into all this self-help and healing and just like really getting encouragement from others, like memoirs. And so those were like turning points of like starting to believe that, okay, if these people can do it, then maybe I can do it. And actually applying and getting the grades and applying myself and being able to do it, and then apply for med school and actually getting accepted. So,
wow, and that's huge. I like that you started off that you it was the belief that you could become a doctor, not even becoming a doctor. It was just that you could, because most people was like, no, that's not even. Don't even go there. It's not even going to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a lot of volleyballing back and forth, but overall, like it was leaning more towards the ability that I could create my life. And that was kind of the theme around most of my upbringing, is that, this realization that I could manifest or could create my reality. And it doesn't solely depend on my upbringing. Like I make it what it is. And that became more and more clear as I went along. And then once I got into med school, even though I still had that kind of part of me, like this internal conflict, like like comparing with others and thinking like, I still wasn't good enough. And I looked around me and I was like, holy crap, I'm in school. I'm in med school. Like I'm actually achieving this. And another pivotal point was in 2008 when the whole economy crashed. I had to take a year off because of private funding. A lot of banks closed down and I couldn't financially sustain myself. I was able to pay for school, but private wise to pay for my bills and living expenses, I was pulling everything out on my own. And when you're doing it on your own, you don't get cleared for a lot of money, because I didn't have a co-signer, didn't have family really to do that for me. And so I ruined into this like huge depression, this huge, like really like, oh my God, I have to like leave all this behind. You see here, I'm like, I need to have rich parents in order to be a doctor, and really self-loathing on myself again, and finding meditation at that point, because I was just so down and out. I went to traditional therapy. I started doing all these different modalities just to help myself, because I was just really feeling down about my situation, and working as a waitress and just like going through all this schooling and then kind of starting back from square one. And meditation really helped me. And that's when I started reading a lot of self-help books like Power of Now and a lot of Deepak Chopra, and just getting into like other schools of thought, which kind of helped me realize again, like, hey, it's okay. Like this is a lesson. You're going to grow. You're going to learn. So that was a huge pivotal moment for me. And so then after that, I found a way of transferring my credits and finding a school that was a bit more affordable. So I actually transferred to the Caribbean. We have schools in the Caribbean that are much more affordable. And, I had family and friends that did help me at that time. So I obviously was able to graduate. And then immediately after graduation, I landed a very prosperous position at a mental health substance abuse facility, where I was running multiple substance abuse facilities on the clinical end. So I was leading the clinical side of it and doing pretty well, and kind of getting exposed to the whole medical field and becoming pretty jaded by it. Like I was doing very well financially. I was in I had a team of like doctors, nurses, therapists, and people like under me, in a sense that I was guiding and leading in this field. And, people would look at me and be like, wow, you're doing well, but I just didn't feel good still. I felt miserable. And so that was a huge turning point where, my relationship was failing. My, career, I still didn't feel like I was successful. And I, again, done all this help on myself, read a lot of books, done traditional therapy, and just was like, well, where do I go next? Like, I felt like I eliminated all my resources. And then I found hypnotherapy, and it kind of was almost by accident, even though hypnotherapy has been used for many years since 1700s. It's not educated much in medical school. But I started diving into this whole hypnotherapy and the subconscious mind. And I was like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. Okay, I'm going to go see a hypnotherapist. And so I worked with a hypnotherapist, and my realizations were pretty profound in a very short period of time. I had still a lot of limiting beliefs around my value, my worth. I went to school. I've done everything that I thought that I should do, but I still felt like I wasn't good enough and that I wasn't worthy. And that all stemmed from my childhood and my upbringing. And even though I thought I worked on it through talk therapy, there were still these inner parts of me. So my inner child was still like really desperately needing help. So after about 6 months, I would say I made this huge transformation in my perspective in life and the reality I was perceiving. And even though my physical reality did not change, the way I saw it changed tremendously. And I just could not avoid that like little inkling in me that was saying, you need to learn how to do this and just, help others. Like, this is the way I wanted to help people. Like, I wasn't big about medication. I wasn't like, I got a very clear picture about the business side of medicine. And I was just really like, I don't want to do this. And this was the holistic route that I fell in love with. And yeah, needless to say, I learned about it, and then I opened up my practice.
Yeah. Wow. What a story. I love that. And I love the fact that you're so raw, vulnerable, talking about these limiting beliefs that most of us have. Someone might be listening and go, I don't have any limiting beliefs. But if we really dig deep into it, we all have something that we believe or we've been told to believe, that's stopping us from something. And yeah. I love the whole journey that you went on. The whole journey is absolutely amazing. And we're going to go a little bit more into the journey as we go forward. But yeah, you've had a lot of turning points in your life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah. Those are the most significant for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. You were going to add on when I was saying something about the limiting beliefs, how we've got them. What were you going to say about that?
Yeah. So we have blind spots, right? And you don't see what you don't see, and I was completely unaware of my beliefs, but they were very clear in my word patterns. They were very clear in how I felt. And that's what, the hypnotherapist and going to school and just becoming more clear about how is my body communicating and telling me hey, there is a belief here that deep down inside, I felt like a fraud. Those were the main things. I felt like, part of me that just didn't feel right.
That's
so we all have, sorry.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You're saying that you felt like a fraud, because I can imagine a lot of people who are listening are like, oh my gosh, I feel exactly the same, Anna Marie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, even after all my schooling, that was the main pattern. I throughout med school, I felt like a fraud, because it's how can you do this? You're coming from, again, you're a foster kid. How are you expecting yourself to help others? You can't even help yourself. You feel this way. And, after, even while I was practicing in traditional medicine, I still felt like a fraud. Here you are guiding people. You're not even you need to live by example. And I just felt I wasn't really practicing what I was preaching.
Yeah. Wow. And that's crazy. And the blind spots, like you said, we all have those blind spots. And I was actually talking to someone this morning, and they said to me, well, Mihaela, how do you expect people to reflect upon themselves when they are so busy, when they've got kids, when they've got businesses? And I just thought to myself, and I was like, doesn't everyone self-reflect? Because I self-reflect as much as I can. Of course, I've got my blind spots, but I was like, in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, people actually don't self-reflect. People actually don't pull themselves back at the end of the day or at the end of the week and go, oh, what did I do? What can I do better? What did I do really good? What can I work on? I was like, oh my gosh, people don't actually do that. I was mind blown. It kind of gave me a bit of a realization kick in the guts. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. So I'm so glad I'm talking to you today and we're able to share this information with others.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the perspective that your mirror, your life is your mirror. And for that person, I would be like, if everything's going wonderful and great in your life, then okay, fine. There's no need to self-reflect if you're feeling wonderful all the time. But the thing is, we're human, and we came in this life to have lessons and to learn from our journey and experience. And, the life is that playground, that mirror that's kind of bouncing back at you, what you can learn from it. If you're getting angry because someone's cutting you off, then there's a lesson to be learned there. That feeling that you're being triggered by something, right? And so there may be something under there you can look at.
Yeah, 100% triggers, eh? But talking about success, so your belief about success, or limiting belief about success, or even optimal health, what does it look like at the moment? So what does success look like for Anne Marie at the moment, and what does optimal health look like for you at the moment?
I love that question because success has definitely shifted over time and what it looks like for me. And I think it's shifted as I continue to accept who I am and what is right for me, because we have so many beliefs around what success needs to look like too, right? Because, we may have a specific car or our house and we say, oh, this is success, right? Most of my life, I was chasing, oh, this is what being a healer looks like. I need to wear a white coat, write a prescription and be a doctor. And this is what success looks like. But even after achieving that, I still didn't feel it, right? And so for me, success is just living your authentic self and who you are and just being at complete peace, and success does not come in a form of, paper money, like abundance. It comes in all abundance, the abundance of my time, balance, health, food, life around me, my partner, just having a well-balanced life is successful. And I don't need to be greatly rich. And that's another thing. We have these identities with success and even money. But for me, success is just having a life that I'm happy to be in.
Yeah. Wow. And it's so simple, isn't it? It's when you actually think about it, you're like, wow, success and optimal health is and can be so simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all mind, body, everything. As I continued on this journey of living authentically, my mind, I wanted to create even a career around being able to have that balance of my mind. My mind and my body were number one. I want to be able to give myself the time that I need in order to meditate or to nurture myself and to give myself that self-love so that I can then serve others. And so creating that balance is success for me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Anne Marie. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And you even said at the start when you said success for me now is, which clearly shows it was something different back, and you, the assistance of you being able to reflect, and even using hypnosis would have probably helped you to define what success is. Yeah,
absolutely. It did.
Yeah. So let's talk about today's topic. I'm so excited. From doctor to hypnotherapist, how to live an authentic life. So what do you see the difference between being a doctor and a hypnotherapist? And I mean, look, I guess it would have been a challenge leaving the doctor world and moving into a hypnotherapist. What was it challenging? Give us a bit of an insight of what the difference is and the challenges that came with it.
Absolutely. So the huge challenge was the cultural challenge of people looking at me and being like, are you serious? You went to school for how long and now you're doing what? And in a sense, it was like a failure, oh, it needs to look like this. If you went to school for 8 years, you need to do this. And I had to fight against that of just letting go of that idea. Again, I looked at what is the life that I want to live? What is it that I want? This is, what do I feel good with being, helping people? When I first did rotations, we do all these different types of specializations in order. Well, number one, it's a requirement, but also you're finding out kind of what specialization you want to go into in medicine. And, the first thing that I realized is number one, I hate surgery. It's I do not want to be in a surgical room. But the other thing that I found is that I love, and this is probably why I didn't like surgery, is that the person was under anesthesia and I couldn't talk to them. And I loved talking to people. I loved being able to get to know them.
You probably wouldn't get anything back, hey?
Yeah, exactly. After surgery, like I would talk to them, how are you feeling? What's going on? And And, I found myself really delving into like just understanding people um, and, and then I originally wanted to do psychiatry. So I was like, I'd love to sit and just talk with people, understand what's going on. And then I did an internship in psychiatry, and I was like, like I'm not big about these medications. Like I just want to talk with them and understand them and help them holistically. And so I started like kind of accepting this part of me that wants to give someone all these options, and medications had its place, but I wanted to make sure I gave them all the other options too. So I found myself already leading towards this like more therapeutic path. But I had a lot of friends that were like, dude, like, this is not how you help people. And so I had to fight kind of just accepting like, this is what felt right for me. All the time, it was like what felt right for me. And it just felt easy. Like it was so easy for me to talk to people, and I was pretty good at it. I was like, wow, I'm helping them without medications. Okay. So this is the realm that I'm going to, go towards. And then after my transition, my awareness is in just how fast I made my epiphanies in a sense. I just couldn't, there was no other option for me in the way that I help people. It's a very, very misunderstood field, hypnotherapy. And I felt like, okay, well, at least my understanding from the traditional medicine could help kind of bridge the two aspects together, because it's not a regulated field, hypnotherapy. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there on even how it works. And so I felt like, okay, this is my space to kind of educate the two parties, someone that's very logical minded and also looking at it from a traditional sense. And then someone that's, very, more focused on the holistic side, but doesn't know the science behind it.
Yeah, and that's perfect to lead us for you to explain to us what actual hypnosis is. I've had experience myself with hypnosis, and it kind of just fell on my lap, and I was like, oh, I'll just go with it. And then like I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Can I like be in this like 24/7? No, but it's absolutely amazing. So are you able to let the audience know a little bit about hypnosis, what it is, and maybe even what it isn't, and how it works? Because you said you can put the two together of people who, want to work holistically, and some people are like, no, give me the science. How's this going to help me with my surgery? Or how's this going to help me with whatever's happening?
Yeah, so I like to start off explaining that it's a very natural, altered state of consciousness that you have already been in. Everybody has already experienced this state of consciousness, but they just are not aware. One example is called highway hypnosis, where you're driven from one point to another. And then when you get to your destination, you're like, how did I get here? And you don't remember the streets you took or the turns you've taken. And that's because you were very entranced in your thoughts. And another example of a type of trance state is when you watch a movie and you're just very engrossed in the characters, and you're feeling how they feel, and you even lose track of time. So after 2 hours have passed, you're like, where did the time go? And so that is a trance state. But an altered state of consciousness is what we're trying to get you in the sciences, what we're trying to get you back to is a very open learning state. And this is called theta brainwaves, where when you're in meditation or in a deep relaxation, you enter into these theta states, these alpha or theta states. And these are also brainwaves that you experience predominantly in childhood, when children are very open and receptive to, creating, learning things or creating change. They're very pliable. And we found that in hypnosis, when people are very open, we can create very rapid change. So hypnotherapy is like meditation, where we get you to these states of consciousness that are very relaxed, very deep. And they've been states that you've already experienced, you just were not aware. Most people believe that to be in hypnosis, you have to be asleep. That's not hypnosis. It's actually, you're actually fully awake and aware. So there's a like people will say, oh, you're unconscious. No, you're actually very conscious. That's why I say altered state of consciousness. There are a lot of ways to get into an altered state of consciousness. Meditation and hypnosis is one way. And so I like to compare hypnosis to like meditation, but I say like it's like meditation on steroids because you're going very, very deep into these really beautiful states of awareness where you're just aware of you, how you feel, your thoughts, your surroundings. Like just the guide would just focus your attention on what it is that we want to change or alter. Basically, either it be a thought pattern or a feeling, a belief, or, and that's someone that goes back and forth. So there's talking and hypnosis. People think that you're unconscious, you're out of control and that you're asleep. No, you're in full control because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So I cannot control someone. I cannot make them say or do anything that they don't want to say or do. We're actually talking back and forth, and they're just in this really relaxed, comfortable state where they have more awareness of what's going on within them.
Yeah, it's awesome. I like that you said you can't make anyone say or do anything, because a lot of people probably think of like a magician on stage being like, I want to hypnotize you now, and now you're going to jump like a frog, or, something along those lines. Whereas this is not that.
No, it's very therapeutic, and that's like state. So there's different types of hypnosis, right? So there's different subcategories, and stage hypnosis is one of them. And one thing that people are not fully aware of, as a stage hypnotist, they will specifically look for people that are open to suggestion, that want to entertain, that want to be part of the show. And I had one guy call me, and it's funny, he wanted me to convince him that I can hypnotize him because he's like, you can't hypnotize me. And I'm like, why do you say that? And he's like, oh, well, I was at a job function and they pulled me on stage, and I immediately could hear his verbiage. And I was like, okay, someone's being pulled. They don't want to be up there. So I was like, well, did you not want to be on stage? And he's like, no, absolutely. I hate being the center of attention. And I was like, exactly. That's why you could not be hypnotized, because you didn't want to be, because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And if you don't want to be, in front of a bunch of people being looked at, then of course you're not going to go there. You have to be relaxed, open, and really have this sense of trust.
Yeah, that's 100% right. And I like that you said it's all self.
Yes.
So you are going there yourself, and the guide, like someone like yourself, it just leads the individual to something that they agreed upon beforehand.
Correct. Exactly. It's like you're allowing me to guide you, but it's all you doing the work, right? I learned how to do hypnosis on myself at this point. So I take myself into trances, and I fix little things up there.
So you can take yourself into hypnosis yourself. You don't need a guide or...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I do it all the time.
I do it all the time. I'm doing it right now. I'm actually not here.
I mean, when you experience those states, they're beautiful. And so my meditation practice is just like, it's like hypnosis. They blended very much. So if I need to do any programming or do like, I call it parts work on myself, if I'm trying to figure things out, then I'll do it. And if I get to like a block because there's something I can't see, then of course I get a guide, or I get someone to help me, that I've worked with, usually my teacher, my mentor, who was my teacher.
Wow, that's amazing. And it sounds like you even like touching things up a little bit and changing a few things. Sounds like, you're leading towards living your authentic life, moving away from being a doctor to hypnotherapy and letting go of old beliefs and so forth. And we hear everyone talking about these days, live your authentic life, or I'm living my authentic life. Why aren't you living your authentic life? What does that even mean? Like, the word's thrown around, authentic life, but what does it actually mean, and what does it look like?
I love that question. So authentic life cannot be defined by anybody else besides you. So number one. And, if someone was coming to me and kind of guiding me through it, the first thing that I would say is the feeling. Like, you have to connect with how you feel. And if you're not connected with how you feel, then you won't be able to find what is authentic to you, because your feelings and emotions, or your body, your subconscious mind is the body, is what is going to guide you like an inner compass.
Something happening down there.
No, sorry. It's me, habit. I paused because of the siren in the background. I
heard the siren. I was like, oh, there's something happening there. I was going to say, it is America.
So, so you got to listen to what your body is communicating with you. And that communication is going to tell you what is right or what is wrong for you. Nobody else can tell you what is right or what is wrong, because we all came into this life as a unique individual. There's nothing that is perfect. There's nothing that is replicable. There's nothing that is the same. Even two twins are very different from each other personality wise, because they come into this life, even though with perfect genetic identities, they have different perspectives. And when you get to know twins as they grow up, they have these personalities that are just very, unique to them. And so there's no replicable, perfect identity of what life needs to look like, because we're all very unique in this world. And so, we have to listen to what feels right for us to then identify what is right for me. What is it that feels right that I need to be doing in my life? So for me, that would be the first step of like what authentic is. Only you'll know. And it's the feeling that your body will produce to tell you like, this brings me joy. This brings me passion. This lights my day, of listening to that little inner light in you that says, this feels right.
Yeah. I mean, just because we see someone, I guess on Instagram or wherever, living their authentic life, and then us trying to fit our life into their little cube life. And then we get there and we're like, well, that isn't as fun as they make it seem. That's because maybe it's not authentic to you. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely. There's nobody that's going to do something the same way as you. And I mean, that was something that I had to step into, like, okay, like even my Instagram, even my social media, even my podcast, everything that I do, I'm like, you know what, it needs to just come from me. Cause people can tell, right? People can tell if you're like, all right, this is it. This is like you're trying to copy something and it doesn't feel right, and that comes through. People can tell when you're like that you're radiating in your own vibration, that this is your vibe. There's no other vibe that's the same as yours. And so you just have to find what frequency feels right for you and just continue to move towards that.
Yeah. And what would be a few steps for someone to find out like what makes them feel amazing? I mean, I guess there'll be a lot of things that individuals may have to overcome, because let's say, for example, they know that their authentic life is, let's say, living in Ibiza by themselves, not surrounded with anyone, and that's it, right? But they know, like, let's say they have a family or they have a business, they can't just leave everything and go there, or can they? Like, what is the things, the blockages? Like, what blockages are there?
Yeah. So, I mean, number one of the biggest blocks could just be suppressing or ignoring, right? We push down, we ignore how we feel about certain things. Yeah. Yeah. And
it'll change.
When
I wake up, it'll be different.
Yeah. And we're living then in a very unaware life. And, for me, actually, this was a pivotal moment that I brushed over. Wow. For me, it took one of my good friends, childhood friends, that woke me up. It just like kind of made me realize like, hello, you're alive. And that was the passing of one of my friends. And it just woke me up out of this pattern, this like rut of like work, come home, it was just like, go, 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 right? It was like automation. And I was so stuck in that automation that I was unaware of what I was doing. And so that's the block, right? The block is just to wake up and to just be aware that there is a pattern. And if the pattern is not something that feels right, you're not like, this is life. Like this is the only life you're going to live. So you ask yourself, like, am I good with where I'm at right now? And if there's any inner doubt at all, being honest with that, then look at that. And then there's time to change something. And you take small steps, right? Like I had this question, like someone was like, how did you change so much in 6 months, but you were still in the same place? it was my perspective. Like I just changed my perspective. You have to change your inner reality of awareness, and then you can change your outer reality and start to make small little changes that will create that. Even if it's creating boundaries in your life so that you get like 30 minutes in the morning or 5 minutes in the morning just to sit with yourself or just to create, a little bit of peace in your day. You start small and little. And that was one of the things I did. I went back to meditating. Like I left meditation for a period of time, and then I went back to meditation, and then just kind of reading more and exploring, and then finding hypnosis. So it's just, there's depending on where people are, but I would say number one, just wake up and see if, your life is exactly where you would want it to be. And if not, then I like to look at like, okay, where do we need to go? Like, what is that ideal life that you would like to create? And then break it down, in baby chunks.
Yeah. Wow. That's just like that question that you just asked is like, do you love your life? Like, is this the life that you want? Like waking up and going away from that automation, breakfast, work, meeting, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's crazy. I remember listening to Sadhguru, and he was talking, and he said, I changed. He said, I needed to find out who I wanted to become. And then I changed everything about me. I know he said, I decided I no longer like chocolate. I no longer like the color blue. Now I dress like this. Now I have a beard. Now I talk to these people. Like everything changed. He goes, my whole personality changed because that's who I was becoming. He's like, I was no longer that person that enjoyed this and this and this. Overnight, I enjoyed something else. I didn't like watching footy. I did so many other things, like in line to who you want to become, who your authentic self is. So that's a really good question. It will make people think. It's making me think now. I'm like, who do I need to become?
And I would say like there has to be some room for change to occur. Let me rephrase that. So, as I started to get more clear of like what I wanted life to look like, because I was clearly not happy with what I was doing at the moment. I had this image and idea of what I wanted life to look like. And that image has significantly changed over time. At one point, maybe it was like, oh, I wanted to be overlooking the beach, and I want to be overlooking the mountain. I want to have a house here and a house there. And now it's like, I want a house in the forest. Like it's just like really simplified now, just because it's like, all that goes into creating that. And all I want is simplicity. I just want to create connections. I want to, those are the things that have enriched my life. So I just became more clear, and my overall life goal has really simplified, just because I've gotten more clear of like even who I am. And a lot of the plans I was having with myself were also based on a lot of beliefs that were so ingrained in me that I was unaware. Like we are constantly being conditioned by the news that we watch, by TV, by movies, by social media, of like how life needs to look like. And so we take on not just our own personal limiting beliefs from our upbringing or childhood, but we take on beliefs from our society, from our culture, from our religion, from everything. And where they're so ingrained in us that we're unaware of them. They're just part of us. Those are the blind spots. And so as I became more aware of how I was even culturally being influenced, of like what type of car I need to drive, what I need to, what house I need to live in. Like what I was even asking myself, is that really what I want? Like even the idea, and this was a huge epiphany for me, of my identity as a woman. Like genderly, I had so many beliefs around what a woman needs to be or look like in order to be accepted. And even the idea of like having children was very much ingrained in me, and that awareness of like that alone just made me really ask myself authentically, like, do I want children? Or is it just something that I believe I need to do as a woman? And because we are culturally also conditioned that it's not if you want children, it's when. And so even that language alone was very much conditioning me to believe that I needed to do that in order to be accepted. And so I was very blinded in a sense of like, is that what I want though? Like authentically, is that me?
Yeah, wow, you just touched upon so many different points. I was just like, poor, we could talk about that one, we could talk about that one. Which one are we going to talk about? Yeah. No, there's so many pathways to go there and there's so many questions to ask yourself. But I guess the end question, you summed it up right, is that what I want? Is that the life that I want? Is that my authentic life? Does that make me happy? Does that make me want to get up? Does that make me want to be a good person? Like there's so many things. And yes, and as a woman, there's so many questions that you can ask yourself, even as a man. As a teenager, every time, as a 20-year-old, as a 30-year-old, as a 40-year-old, it's like, I should be here, I should be doing this. As a business owner, there's so many things. And then all around it is self-sabotage. I feel that us humans are absolutely amazing at self-sabotage to achieve that definition of success, to achieve those houses, to achieve that bank account, to achieve that partner, that car, those kids, that image, the status quo. So why are we so good at self-sabotaging?
So it's a pattern that we're unaware of, right? And I guess let me go through the programming, because self-sabotage is just, we're repeating a pattern. And in everything we do, we have a behavior. So our behaviors, it be you withdrawing from a situation or going towards a situation, those are our behaviors. The types of foods that you choose or the meetings that you go to or don't go to, it's just all behavior. But that behavior didn't pop out of nowhere. And what created it is an emotion that we have, the emotions that we're feeling. And I always go to me as an example. So a lot of the behaviors that I would do is I would withdraw from events and opportunities. And the feeling, the emotion that was behind that was sadness. Like I would feel this sense of sadness. And so I would withdraw. And that emotion did not come from nowhere, though. There's something that created that. And this is all human programming. This is how we are told to do something. So a belief creates that emotion. So for me, a lot of my core beliefs were around my self-worth, of feeling like I'm alone, of feeling like I'm not capable of doing something, or feeling like I'm a fraud, which would make me feel sad, which would then make me withdraw. But it's like a computer. Like if you look at your computer, all the programming that you have on it did not just come there out of nowhere. Like someone needed to put that information on the computer. So someone sat there, tapped at the keyboard and put ones and zeros, or they're coding in order to create that software like Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or whatever you have on your computer. And so just like someone sitting at your keyboard, that is an event. And so events and people, so relationships, event and relationships create beliefs about ourselves, which then create emotions, which then create behaviors. So for me, a lot of my events were surrounding abandonment, feeling like, mom, my relationship, abandoned me. And feeling because of that, I am not worthy, not capable, not good enough, which would make me feel sad, which would make me withdraw. But if I really examined the behavior of withdrawal, I would isolate myself and really, didn't want people to see me emotional, crying, was told I was sensitive and all these things. And so I was really just withdrawing from myself. Like I didn't want to feel those feelings. I didn't want people to feel those feelings, but we're human. We are here to be connected with people. We are here to make relationships, to connect. And that withdrawal was just me abandoning myself. So when I started to see that I'm just repeating a pattern, because the belief of abandon or the events of abandonment from mom would make me feel like I'm not good enough, but I'm abandoning myself. I learned it from somewhere. So I learned it from mom. And so when I realized that, I saw that self-sabotaging pattern that I'm just repeating what mom did, to me, not realizing that, it's just mom was repeating a pattern too. Mom was abandoning herself because mom, unfortunately got into drugs and, but she felt abandoned by her mom. So that's why she would withdraw from herself, suppress her emotions and use drugs and then withdraw from me. So she was just repeating a pattern from her mom. And so when I started to realize that it was even very generationally, like going back down a lineage, like I'm just repeating a pattern. And so I had to stop the pattern somewhere, right? So now my story changed. Of course, I recognized that mom was doing the best that she could do with her lessons. And then I changed my value, my self-worth. And so everything is a pattern. And that self-sabotage is a pattern coming from somewhere. It is coming from somewhere. Most people are just aware of the emotions, and we're aware of the behaviors. But I'm going to tell you that the emotions and behaviors are connected to something. There is a programming. We don't just learn how to do things out of nowhere. It's just something taught us to do that.
Yeah. Wow. You just blew my mind. I'm pretty sure the people are listening, you blew their mind too, because the connection of it all that you made, it just makes sense, right? It just is. And how much better does it make you feel when you actually understand that it comes from somewhere? It makes you feel better. You just get this relief, like, oh my gosh, wow. You have so much more sympathy. You understand more. It connects you more, doesn't it? It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, the awareness alone is a release. Like the minute someone even realizes the connection, because patterns will happen, and that's the most frustrating part. We're like, where does this come from? And the funny thing is, like, sometimes I'll get people that are searching for these big, really grandiose, in a sense, like traumas or experiences. But, and then they find things, they're like, what? Like, that was so simple, because as an adult, we look back at experiences we had. And as an adult, we kind of almost brush them aside. Like, we understand as an adult, but we have to really look at our inner child aspect of the small part of us that, didn't really understand it the way that we understood it then, because we create these little egos within us throughout our time. And there is this like little ego inner child that is in us that it created these beliefs and identities of itself. So even though adult may understand, and that's why we'll even be conflicted with ourselves, there'll be a part of us that, maybe wants to go out and do something, and a part of us that doesn't want to go out and do something. And so I'll guarantee that it's two different little ego aspects of ourselves that are conflicting each other, and one may be coming from inner child, and one may be coming from adult.
Yeah, I love that. It's if we dig deep enough, it all has a root cause. The same in the medical field, in our bodies, the same with our mind. Doesn't mean because we find it, we blame it, and therefore, that is just us. No, it's exactly what you've done. It's like, no, what can be done about it? Now that I've reflected and I see it, what can I do to be the best version of myself, live my authentic life, and maybe just tweak a few things about it?
Absolutely. The awareness of it alone is just, now you know what you can change. Now I know like what my story needs to change to. If you're not aware of something, how can you change it? If you're not.
Sometimes when something happens, I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't know. Now I need to do better. I'm like, now I need to be better. Now I need to be the bigger person. Oh no. But yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So in regards to authentic life and purpose, right? How does one kind of figure out what their purpose is? Like, what is a purpose? Like, what does that feel like when you go, like for example, for you, your purpose is to show people that hypnotherapy is absolutely amazing, and it can do what it's done to you, can do to others, and assist them in healing and achieving whatever they want to achieve and success is. So how do people find their purpose?
Yeah. So depending on where someone is, of course, I would first start with listening to the feeling, and, your body is going to help guide you. And for those that maybe, because I'm talking to a wide range of people and I don't know where you are. So in regards to your progress, so if it's I'll tell you from the beginning, I honestly had no idea what I liked, what I enjoyed, or anything. I just did not know myself. Like at the time, like if my partner liked purple, I like purple. If my partner said, they're Republican, I'm Republican. Like it was like, whatever they are, I am, just because I didn't know what I liked. And so it was just first recognizing like what brought me joy, what made me feel good. And it was as simple as recognizing that I like blue. was like, oh, wow, I like blue. Blue makes me feel happy, or like, or liking flowy dresses, or, it's just beginning to just listen to my joys, listen to what makes me feel good inside, and then start to build on that. And let that trickle into what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. Oh, I'm doing this, it brings me joy. Oh, I'm doing that, it brings me joy. And then continue to build from that. So like even my career, like with medicine, all I knew in the very beginning is that I loved connecting and talking with people. And I went from different aspects of medicine and to bring me here. And so I just finally kind of narrowed in on it more and more. And I felt like I was getting closer and closer and closer each time. And so it starts small. It starts with just listening to yourself, finding your joy, finding what feels right, and then continuing to grow from there, which will lead you to your purpose. And the purpose is not always that what you think it may be. and that's like falling. That is then dharma. Like you are learning what your dharma is, and you're like what it is you're meant to do, your talents, what comes easy for you, and just allow that to, obviously, when people are first starting something, like when I first started hypnotherapy, you think I could hypnotize someone and help guide them? Like I was not the best, trust me. But it was just learning my word patterns, learning, but it came very easy and I was excited about it. That was the most important thing. I was excited about it. And so I followed that joy in me that I was like, oh, wow. Like, I don't care what anybody says. This is what I'm doing. I don't care.
Yeah. I love that.
I would say, start small.
And you can tell it brings you joy and you're excited about it and you want to share it with everyone. So if you could give 3 practical tips for someone to live their authentic life, if we could put it to 3 things, clearly one of them would be start small, but what would be the 3 someone goes, all right, I'm a practical person, I'm logical, what do I need to do now to live my authentic life?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Start small. And create silence to listen to yourself. If you're not listening to that feeling, if you're not listening to yourself, then you won't know. And then part of that silence is listening to the subconscious mind. So quieting silence, the thinking mind, because you said logical, right? The people that are very logical and linear, highly intelligent people, I work with a lot of those people, so I get it. I am that myself. They have a lot of that thinking conscious mind. Because there's 2 parts of your mind. You have conscious and you have subconscious. So subconscious mind is 90% of who you are. So we have to learn how to listen to that. Yeah, exactly. We got to learn how to listen. So start small, create silence to sit and listen to yourself. Definitely listen to yourself and that however it needs to come through.
Yeah, wow.
Those were 3, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I mean, just the part of just creating silence that's a huge one, to silence and to listen to yourself, because that takes time, that takes commitment, and that takes work. But it's definitely going to pay off. And it's not like, oh, you do it for the next year and then you'll be fine for the rest of your life. No, sorry to tell you, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah. And even if it's for 5 minutes, like just taking that pause and listen with curiosity, like what you're feeling, and just acknowledge that. 5 minutes a day is that's all. It's like working out. Like it's better to do it every day as much as possible, as opposed to once a week.
Yeah.
So those little habits.
Yep. I love that. So look, Anna Marie, you've shared some absolutely amazing information on today's podcast on how to live your authentic life. You shared an absolutely amazing journey that you've been through. You shared your learning experiences, your struggle, you were raw vulnerable with us, introduced us into hypnosis, what it is. But to finish off, I ask all my guests, what's one thing that you may do every day, every night, even maybe once a week, that really gets you to optimal health? What would that one thing be, Anna Marie?
Yeah. So at night and morning, everybody's in this state called hypnagogic, for those smart, logical people minded. So before I go to bed, I get myself into a meditation or a hypnosis, and I get my mindset right to sleep well, because through the night, it's just making sure my body is rejuvenated. And then I wake up in the morning and I will do my meditation or just sit with myself to start the day. And that's the number one thing, because for me, it's always about the mind. If we're aware, we can choose the right foods, we can make the right decisions for our business, we can, exercise more. And so before I go to bed, I meditate, even if for 5 minutes. And when I wake up, I meditate.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. And it's definitely, allowing you to live your authentic life and reach your purpose. I absolutely love it. So is there anything else that you want to share with the audience? I'm going to put down all the links to your socials, Anne Marie, and people will be able to access you, including your podcast and so forth. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we close off for today?
I don't think so.
I'll put you on the spot.
I shared, I believe I shared with you, but I'll give you the link. I'm offering, if anybody wants it, just to read for any inspiration. Like my goal is to inspire, even if that one person, just like that chiropractor, inspired me. So I write about my story in a anthology called Medicine Woman, and I just talk about my self-doubts and how I've kind of overcome them, just to help inspire anybody. So I'll give that for free, a chapter for my book if anybody would like that.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for your time, Anna Marie. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Natural Podcast. And remember, the missing link between failure and success is your health. Content and information provided here is opinion of Mahela Raguse and is for information purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. It is not intended to provide medical advice or take the place of medical advice or any current treatment you're undertaking. Consult your own medical professionals for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the Natural Health Podcast. It is advised that you consult your doctor or healthcare professional in relation to any health concerns you may be having. Mahela Raguse does not take responsibility for any health consequences which occur from a person listening, viewing, or reading this content. And in no circumstances shall the Natural Podcast, Mahela Raguse, any guests or contributors to the Natural Podcast, or any employees, associates, or affiliates of Mahela Raguse be responsible for damages arising from the information provided on the Natural Podcast. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical conditions in either yourself or others. Please note, if you're taking prescription, do not stop your medication or start a new protocol, including but not limited to supplements, diet, lifestyle changes without consulting your doctor or healthcare professional. If you or any person has a medical concern, you should consult with your healthcare provider or seek other professional medical advice. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something that you have read or heard on the Natural Podcast or in any linked materials. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. Neither Mahela Raguse nor the publisher of this content takes responsibility for the possible health consequences of any person or persons reading or listening or following the information in the educational content.